So those who missed it can listen to it and also have their answers sorted. So without any further ado, I'm going to invite Supriya Chawla. She's the head of the Chevening Scholarships in India. She's at the British High Commission, and she's going to share with you about what it is and how you can go about applying for it. So Supriya, over to you.
Thank you, Elsa. I just took a minute to unmute. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for taking the time out to attend today's session. Thank you, Elsa, for organizing, and thanks, Kanta, Iknur, Sonakshi, and Wasim for participating. I think the session looks very promising. What with 5 Chevening alumni on the panel, I'm sure every little detail will get fleshed out, and all of your questions should be answered. So I'll do a brief overview and can take questions in the end, should any of them be directed towards me. So a brief history. For 38 years, actually, Chevening Scholarships have enabled emerging leaders from all over the world to pursue the one-year master's program in the UK. There is no typical or distinctive personality that we look for when we choose for Chevening. What we are looking for are people who have passion, who have ideas and leadership abilities to create a better future for their community, their state or country. And that is why the 3,300 alumni that we have in India, they represent diverse sectors, regions, and they may be very different from each other. We also don't draw any boundaries on what you can study in the UK or which university you choose in the UK. So that itself should encourage many to apply. Chevening Scholarships, if I were to just speak about the award in itself, these are fully funded. It covers your tuition fee, your travel to the UK and back, your accommodation cost, and then of course there is the daily allowance as well. The award is generous, and many of our scholars are able to save some money and then travel across UK and Europe as well. The travel will very largely, of course, fingers crossed on that, it will largely depend on how the pandemic is going to be, of course, over the next months and years. Now, because these scholarships are fully funded, these scholars are kind of free to focus on achieving their professional goals and maximizing the experience of a lifetime in this 1 year. So you will live and study in the UK, of course, for a year. You will develop professionally, you will network extensively and experience the UK culture. And we encourage scholars to do this to the maximum. And do remember that if you are a Chevening scholar, it is mandatory that you come back to India after completing your 1-year master's degree. So I'm going to take a minute on eligibility. Of course, the panel will take you through all of these things in a lot more detail. So you need to be a citizen of India. You should have a reasonably good academic background. You should have finished your graduation at the time of applying. And you must have 2 years of work experience. Now, work experiences, we are very flexible on the work experience. It could be something that you may have completed before, during, or after your graduation. And this includes your part-time work, voluntary internships, paid, unpaid, and of course your full-time work. And so if you look up the Chevening website, there is a way we've calculated the number of hours that you may have worked. So do take a look at that. Your gender, your age, remember there is no upper age limit, your sexual orientation, your religion, your marriage or parenthood status, caste, class, or any of these other attributes do not matter to us. What matters is your ability to submit a strong application that demonstrates that you're capable of taking on this very intense 1 year in the UK, and that you have a clear vision of the future, of your future career plans. Now, the application and how to ensure that you submit a strong one. I think there is a lot of questions always around this. So there are just 2 important elements between you and you're getting the award. So one is the application and the other is the interview. It is a very competitive process, and so you will need to write the application. give a lot of thought when you're writing this application. So I think what I would first of all dissuade it, do not try and do anything at the last minute. I think a lot of our young hopefuls try and do things in the last few days, and that's not the best approach at all. There are going to be a few short essays. And once again, I'm just touching on these things in the overview, and I'm sure it will get teased a lot during the course of the discussion as well. So 4 short essays or statement of purposes that you will need to write in the application on leadership, on networking, on study in the UK, and your career plans. So under leadership, my advice would be to think back to your proudest achievement in life, when you persevered, you demonstrated leadership qualities, you influenced, and tell us about the skills that you used, what you achieved, and what did you learn. And this could be an experience that you may have had in your workplace, or during your study period, or in school, college, etc., or even outside. So it doesn't have to be larger than life, the story. It just needs to be very honest, and it should tell us about a time when you took on a challenge and you proved yourself a leader or an influencer. On the career plan, this is another extremely important question. You will need to draw out a realistic plan, why you are studying or what you wish to study when you are in the UK. So basically share your dreams, share your short-term and your long-term plans with us. And tell us about the kind of impact you wish to make back in India when you're back after your course, and give it a serious thought. And I think I should mention that a lot of people have said during the course of the interview that just the whole experience of writing an application for Chevening has been life-changing for some. Because I think a lot of us just go through life without really reflecting and taking a step back to figure out what do we really want from our lives. And I think this application will make you think about all of those things. So the next statement of purpose that I should definitely speak about is the one on networking. So every year, about 1,500 to 1,700 Chevening scholars are chosen from almost 150 plus countries. And through numerous events that Chevening will organize in the UK, there will be these opportunities to meet all of these scholars from around the world. I think a wonderful opportunity to develop your networks across the globe. And I'm sure the Chevening scholars who will speak after me will tell you about what an experience it must have been for them, and how they continue to stay engaged with so many of these scholars that they may have met while they were in the UK. In addition, of course, I think you may have seen the numbers on the website. There are about 50,000 alumni across the world who are Chevening scholars and fellows, and there are about 3,300 in India itself. So, I mean, given all of this, it's obvious that we need people who understand the importance of networking, and therefore, in this particular question, highlight and tell us about the time when your networks have kind of have come out and helped you achieve something that may have been very challenging. Tell us about the kind of networks that you have, the kind of networks that you hope to develop when you are in the UK. The last question is, studying in the UK is going to be really more about the why have you chosen UK? Why do you want to study what you wish to study? I think a lot of us, once again, take decisions on what we wish to study simply because of peer pressure. It's I mean, we always have these courses that are in fashion, if I may just use the word, and everybody seems to be wanting to do those for a few years. So I think when you start to understand this question and write about it, you will further flesh out why is it that this course is important for you, and how do you kind of weave it into your career plans. So try and create that story around this question as well. I think other than that, of course, in the application, you will be expected to tell us about the 3 courses and 3 universities that you would like to apply to. And you will apply separately to these universities. So that's not a Chevening process per se, but it's important for us to know the universities and the courses, obviously, that you are interested in. And I think just before I wind up, a quick word on our fellowships. We've got two panel members here who are fellows. Kanta and Elsa are both Gurukul fellows. So these are Chevening also offers these shorter 2 to 3 month long thematic courses, which are our fellowships for mid-career professionals. We offer them in themes like cybersecurity, journalism, leadership and excellence, and in science and innovation. So, and did I say journalism or did I say science and innovation twice? I'm sorry. Now, these are for people who have 7 to 10 years of work experience and extremely popular with those who work in the government, the public-private sector, civil society, and a host of other professions. So, and I think if you have any questions, we can take these towards the end. And of course, Kanta and Elsa are here to also share their experience on these shorter programs, the fellowships. So I think I'll stop here, but not before I wish you all the very best and look forward to seeing applications from those of you who may be tuned in today or those who will view the session later. Applications are open currently, and they're open till the 2nd of November. So, so take the first step, and I'm sure it'll be a life-changing decision. But just one point, I think Elsa in the beginning mentioned that the outreach is extremely important, and we need to reach out to candidates from across the country. So I think this has been our focus in the last few years. And I'd be very happy to share with you that last year we had 34% of our scholars that we chose were from smaller towns and tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And this year, we've actually crossed 50% of our scholars who are from tier 2 and tier 3 cities and smaller towns. In fact, when I was looking at the list, I had to Google a few of these smaller towns, and I didn't know which state they were a part of. I mean, I had really not heard of these places, and it was so heartening to see such wonderfully bright people who had applied from these towns and who would now go to the UK and fulfill their dreams. So, so wherever you are, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be in a cosmopolitan city. Please apply for Chevening. We'll be very happy to see your applications. So back to you, Elsa.
Thank you, Supriya. And, you know, when you were speaking, I was transported to my own interview, and I was thinking about how I wrote my application. And you're right, you know, those essays, you need time to think about and be your most authentic self. It's not intimidating, because there are a lot of people who get through, but use this time wisely. You have until 2nd of November to write these essays. Supriya has given you the tips, and you can also reach out to any alumni. They'll be happy to guide you. Tarun Singhal has put in the chat section our Twitter handle, and you can follow us, reach out to us. And now we have 4 other Chevening alumni who will share their experiences. So thank you so much, Supriya. It really is an amazing program, and I'm just grateful that I was given the opportunity to participate. So now I'm going to invite Kanta Singh. So Kanta Singh is the country program manager for UN Women India. And we have Iknur Kaur, who is the communication strategist for SPAG. We have Sonakshi Chowdhury, who is the senior analyst from the Quantum Hub. And we have Wasim Akram, who's the deputy director, special projects division in the Wildlife SOS. So we have a range of scholars and a range of scholars who did different programs. So I'm going to start with Kanta. Kanta, which program did you do and why did you apply for it?
Thank you, Elsa, and thank you, Supriya. I share the sentiment that Elsa mentioned, that it was a great opportunity, and thank you for that opportunity. I applied for the Gurukul Fellowship for Leadership and Excellence. This was in the year 2019. So I'm also part of several other fellowships, because this was one of my learning objective, that every year I'll learn something new. And there are several fellows who are part of other cohorts and other fellowship leadership programs that they shared the Gurukul Fellowship with me. And I was really interested. Only constraint was, and I'm going to talk to all the young fellows, that I realized it a little too late. I think Supriya was one of the oldest ones in terms of Gurukul fellowships and Gurukul fellows that went that year. I should have done it a little earlier. Anyways, I was selected, and it was a hugely rewarding experience for me also, because it is like nothing else. One, it was in the University of Oxford, so that was a huge attraction for me. Even if it was in, say, King's College London, that it used to be the venue earlier, probably I would not have taken the effort. But it was Oxford. People like me who come from a small town in Haryana would never dare to dream of going to Oxford. So huge draw, number one. So I wanted to go and say, I have been to University of Oxford. So that was one major attraction. Second attraction was that you get to meet and learn from and live with some exceptional people. And Gurukul particularly is looking for people who are leaders in their own right. And so when Supriya says that leadership is one common thread between scholarship, Chevening scholarships and Chevening fellowships. And I have, after coming back, also I have met several young people who have been part of the Chevening program. And that stands out. Nobody is an ordinary person. I don't know, Supriya, how you select people, but nobody is ordinary. They definitely have a broader vision, service before self. Those couple of things that really stand out. And thirdly, they have this streak of helping other people. You know, I get calls day in and day out, particularly before the Chevening Gurukul fellowship program is launched. People want to seek help. But even if I want to reach out to people for help, people are willing to help, even if they don't know me. And I say, I'm a Chevening Gurukul fellow, and people are willing to help. It's amazing the way the program brings us together. But coming back to why I applied, was that this was probably my last chance to go to a university, a structured learning environment for 3 months, because it's very difficult to also take off for 3 months in an organization like mine. And Supriya knows the struggles that I had to face. And yesterday I was telling a person who's applying this year for Gurukul Fellowship, I was telling him that please do speak to your organization before you apply, because it becomes very tricky and very difficult to say no at that point. So all in all, it was a beautiful program, and I have several interesting episodes to share, but I know there's time limit today. But we had that's the best time of my life.
Thanks, and I can echo that. It was a space for reflection, especially if you're a mid-career professional. You can't do a master's or one-year program. So 3 months is a great, timeline for you to go to Oxford or one of the great colleges in the UK. And your cohort is made up of people from the bureaucratic services, private sector, development sector. And Supriya, y'all are amazing in how y'all select, because when I was looking at my cohort, they represented pretty much different sectors equally, but we all came from different parts of India and we were very complementary in nature. So kudos to you and your team. A lot of thought goes into selection. So I'm going to ask Iknur the same question. Which program and why did you apply?
Thank you so much, Elsa, for having me here. I'm honestly honored to be part of this beautiful panel. I think it's always just such an experience meeting other Cheveners. And I went to Cardiff University to study digital media and society. And I was in the 2018-19 Chevening scholarship batch. So I'm a Chevening scholar. And I was there for 1 year and I did my master's. And then I also got the work placement through Chevening to work at BBC for 4 months. So overall, I spent about 1 year, 4 months in the UK. And I have to say it was one of the best experiences of my life. Why I applied to Chevening is, it's quite interesting, actually. I always wanted to study in Cardiff University, but I knew that I can never do that until and unless I get a scholarship. And in my head, and I think most Indians would resonate with that, we have this stereotype of a scholar. You need to be a a 95 plus percenter, you need to be the top of your class, you need to be acing your academics and be this absolute brilliant academic child. And I wasn't any of that. I've always been an above average student, but I've never been a scholar, as the stereotype would say. So I never even thought that a scholarship is something that I would be able to get. But I remember I have a really good friend who got the journalism fellowship 2 years before I got my scholarship. And that's when I actually started researching about Chevening. And I was like, okay, what does this fellowship have? And that's when I stumbled upon the scholarship. And I was like, oh, so I'm not eligible for the fellowship, but I am eligible for the scholarship. So let me try. And that's really how it just started. And I was like, if I wanted to do my master's, I knew I wanted to do it from Cardiff University. But Chevening basically gave me that hope that I can finally do it. And I really put all my time and effort into writing that application. And it happened. And I know that I would have not been able to go if it was not for Chevening. And I can say that with absolute conviction that it has changed my life completely. I am a completely different person today. And I don't think that a lot of what I have achieved today would have happened without Chevening. So I totally owe that to this scholarship, because it's not just about giving you that opportunity to go and study in the university that you always want to. It's also the experience that comes with it, the amount of people that I have met through Chevening, the kind of networking experience that I got. It's just something that I don't think I would have had an opportunity to experience had I just gone to study in the UK. I think Chevening definitely brought with it that added layer that really just, it kind of, brought the whole, gave me that whole 360-degree experience. And today, actually, some of my closest friends are Chevening scholars from different countries. One is sitting in Mexico, one is sitting in Paraguay, one is sitting in Nepal, we're all over the world, and they're like some of my closest friends till date. So, that is a very, a very small summary of why I applied for Chevening and, what that experience means to me.
Thanks, Iknoor. What about you, Sonakshi?
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Elsa, for hosting today's panel. So I did a one-year master's as a Chevening scholar, like Iknoor, and I received a master's in gender violence and conflict from the University of Sussex. Now, the reason why I decided to do this and why I decided to apply for it, I was 22 years old. So I was among the youngest Chevening scholars in my cohort that year. And I had, when I was 19, started an NGO, co-founded one called Women of the Elements Trust. We provide free legal aid to women and child victims of domestic violence. And the reason that we do this is because my mother walked out of a violent marriage when I was 9 years old. So for me, this was an incredibly personal experience. And like Supriya mentioned, this was very much about, thinking through why it was that I wanted to study something that is such a burning issue, not just in our country, but everywhere in the world today, right? So I knew I wanted to work in the policy space after, and it was interesting because I did have a chance to come back and work with the Ministry of Women and Child Development on precisely this. I worked on a scheme for shelter homes for women victims of violence. So to me, this was very much a question of what my goals were in terms of moving into policy and being able to apply some of what I would learn in a degree that would allow me, like Iknoor mentioned, a 360 vision of, law, anthropology, pure gender studies, and to be able to study the violence aspect of it, which not a lot of degrees have. So yeah, it was both personal and professional in many ways, and I'm so incredibly gratified by the opportunity to do it.
Thanks, Sonakshi, for sharing. And yes, there's already a question in the chat. Which college should I apply to? You can, Supriya already said, you have all the UK colleges that you can apply to. So pick one and you can pick any field of study. But the process is different. You have to first apply to the college and parallelly apply for the Chevening scholarship. So don't forget to do both. but the Chevening Scholarship application is due by the 2nd of November. So keep those dates in mind. Wasim, what about you?
Hi, thank you, Elsa. It's really nice to connect with all of you. Wonderful platform to discuss the Chevening Award. I applied for a master's in conservation biology. I pursued it at the University of Kent, and it was in 2019 when I went there. Uh, Before that, I had been working with a conservation NGO called Wildlife SOS. I was working on a bunch of projects like developing India's first elephant hospital or going for elephant rescue operations. And at that time, I used to feel this that the conservation really felt like a lonely battle at that time. And I used to see that within India, there was no capacity. There's no leadership. There's no, policy support for these things. And that is when one of my colleagues who had studied in the UK, but not on a Chevening scholarship, but she was aware of scholarship, she recommended this to me. And she said that you should, explore this. Although I did not know at that time what institution in UK should I apply to. I only knew Oxford University at that time. So later on, when I was working with otters in Goa, another researcher I came across, and she finally told me about the institution that I should be applying to. So basically, during the process of my work life and various research projects I took on, I came to know about the institution and the scholarship that I should be applying for. And of course, when I reached, University of Kent on the scholarship, I learned so much there, and I saw and interacted with people from Chevening background, people who could share things about environment and conservation that I had been focusing on for some time, but I did not know the process of how to scale up things. But when I saw the people, I could actually see that it's not difficult to scale up these things, and it helped me expand my network not just within India, but now if I want to work on something related to leopards in India, there's so much conflict with leopards. Even in Delhi, there was a report of leopards somewhere in West Delhi. So then I connect with people who are working on big cats, Chevening scholars in other parts of the world, and they will tell us that this is what we have done with the elephants. We are tracking them like this, so it helps a lot. And it's not just a 1 year association. Even if you are going for a master's program on Chevening scholarship, it's not just a 1 year association. You come back. Chevening Connect enables you to make sure that this is a long-term engagement, and you will continue to be involved in various kind of platforms and events which are hosted by Chevening. So I think overall it's been a wonderful learning experience for me, and I'm really grateful for this particular opportunity that came to my life. Thank you.
Thanks, Wasim. And there are several Cheveners in India who are working on environmental conservation and the big cats as well. And I find that you have any query, because I work in the nonprofit world, but if you have any query, there's somebody in the Chevening network who has that expertise or experience, and they are ever willing to help you. And there's a question from Usama from Pakistan. I'm glad that you joined us for this session. So whilst I posted the link for Chevening in India, please also check Chevening Pakistan and check out the application process over there. I'm sure it's similar to India, but I'm glad that you came for our session. And so I'm going to ask you, y'all have shared a lot about the reason, the motivation for applying for the Chevening scholarship. But can you share 3 learnings from your Chevening program that you implemented in your work or influenced your work on your return? And I'm going to start with Sonakshi this time.
Thanks so much, Elsa. So I wrote them down just in case I would forget. But I think the first one was that the world is both simultaneously larger and smaller than I had previously thought. That was a big learning for me, particularly when you're applying international best practices to your work. I'm very conscious of the fact that I can call up a friend, like Wasim mentioned, you can call up a friend sitting somewhere in a completely different part of the world. And these different contexts really help you bring together what it is that you can apply from a particular context, even, in terms of whether you think about it in terms of developing countries, whether you think about it in terms of human development indicators. That was something that I really found was a big learning that I was able to apply in the policy space. Another one was that our problems don't exist in silos. In that sense, the community aspect of what Chevening brings really meant everything to me. I've worked on issues of gender-based violence, and while I strive for intersectionality in everything that I do, I've also been made aware of the fact that the gender problems of the world, they have echoes in multiple contexts as well. So like it goes back to the first point as well, but just overall, you're able to apply some of those learnings to your work. And the third one was humility. So like I said, I was 22 years old. You think you go out into this space thinking you know everything and you're the bee's knees because you've made it this far. But just meeting so many people from, you know, different places in different career lines, everyone had a different story. Everyone was in a different stage of their life. And taking a step back and listening to all of these different people and their experiences, I think it was a really humbling experience, and really helped me think about, you know, like Supriya said, it forces you to rethink why it is that you do certain things and what it is that you are trying to achieve. And that humility you get from 77 different scholars sitting in your college, each one from a different country, each one at a different stage in their life, it's unparalleled.
Thanks for sharing, Sonakshi. And yeah, I mean, Chevening is not just in India, it's like all over the world. So if there are people who are not Indians, like our friend from Pakistan, do check out the Chevening page for your country. Kanta, what about you? Some of the learnings that you implemented on your return.
So a couple of things, Elsa. One is that what I had written in my application, that because there's a section where the application asks you to write what will you do on your return. So you are recommitting yourself to do those things because you have given a commitment to FCDO saying this is what I'm going to do when I return. So you're forced to think that way. Also, the things that I had written in my application, I also learned a lot when I was in UK. I was looking at women's political leadership with an Indian context. So I visited the British Parliament. I met 26 MPs from UK during my stay. I contacted different principals in Oxford and had a kind of a sign up with the Somerville College. In fact, the principal of Somerville College came to India because I had established contact in the Indian Parliament for her. So a lot of things happened. And after that, there's also a Chevening Alumni Fund. I also got that. And I run a very successful program of training women leaders in which you were also a part. It was a very, very interesting program for me because I could, before I went, I was just dreaming of doing those things. With my job, it is very difficult to do parallel things. But after coming back, I thought it is quite possible, particularly because I had the support of people like you, but also several of my cohort members who volunteered their time. Tarun, for example, I have been reaching out to him for support. Many other people, Shuchin, who's been a mentor to me, many other people who supported. And it is not possible to get this kind of a support of these accomplished people without any return, right? Otherwise, you're always giving something and taking something. People were willing to support. So also, I forgot to mention last time that, you know, when people like us go there, we think that we know what we have been working in the field for so many years, we know everything. Actually, when you reach there, you realize that my friend who is working on artificial intelligence, I hadn't even heard of those things that he was doing. My civil servant friend, who is the additional secretary in Karnataka, the kind of land reforms he was involved in, I was really talking about it just in the air before that. And several others, somebody's working in that tech, somebody is working as an environment.
I think we lost Kanta. Seems like she lost electricity, but I can vouch for that because in the Gurukul fellowship, for example, we are 12 people who go there and we have houses that are close by. So you end up cooking dinner and eating dinner together, and over dinner you discuss not only your current work, but also subjects that are not in your field of expertise. And this kind of an experience helps you broaden your perspective, but also challenges you to think bigger, dream bigger. And often when you come back, you tend to maybe change your job, but also expand your own work. So at Red Dot, for example, we started on new programs, especially with youth and in urbanism, because there is a component with gender and urbanism. And I find a lot of Cheveners have been able to support us either as mentors during the challenge or just helping us think through several of these issues. So, and I can see, and I do want to give a shout out to several of them in the audience. There's Shiti Gala, there's Tarun, Priya Hingarani, and several others. And Shiti has also shared some pointers on writing an application. So do check that out, because the application is extremely critical. There are two separate processes if you're applying for the master's program. One is to the college and one is to the Chevening Scholarship. And you'll have to write essays probably for both. So do check it out on individual websites, and take the time, start early, because 2nd of November seems far away, but it will go very quickly. I want to go to Sonakshi. No, I started with Sonakshi. So ICNUR, what are the 3 learnings from Chevening that you implemented on your return?
Okay, so Sonakshi and Kanta did kind of cover a lot of what I think all of us do experience, but I did kind of like Sonakshi 7. I noted down a few points I don't forget, but to mention simply because there are like so many takeaways that you do tend to kind of really miss out some of the key points. But I think primarily, and I think this is one of the biggest learnings that at least I had as a person, is that my perspective completely changed to everything in life. The way Chevening broadens your horizon in general is amazing, because like Kanta mentioned, you're meeting people who from not just different countries and cultures, but you're meeting people from different fields of work, right? So you're meeting people who work in sectors that you have not previously interacted with. And I used to think that being a journalist, I have interacted with possibly most sectors that exist. But I reached there and realized there is so much more that exists out there that I do not know about. The other thing is that Chevening teaches you that you need to stop being married to your own ideas about anything. And this particularly is important when it comes to your career plan. Chevening teaches you that while it is important to be goal-oriented, while it's important to be focused, it's also okay to be flexible in, cognitively, and also be flexible in how you move forward with your life. I decided after I came back to completely step out of journalism and move into communications. And I don't think I would have ever taken a decision as big as that if I had not gone through Chevening, because that is really what opened my mind to a possibility such as this, because I realized that this is, life is unpredictable, and we sometimes get so married to our ideas that we don't like change. And Chevening taught me that sometimes change is beautiful, and if you embrace it well, it's going to take you on a completely different path. So that is something that came to me only because of Chevening, and because of meeting different people, hearing from them, listening to different life stories. And this is where my 3rd learning comes in, and that is networking. The definition of networking changed for me because of Chevening. Networking is often looked at as a very, you do it to get something out of it, right? And most people sometimes network only for professional growth. What Chevening taught me was that networking sometimes is for your own personal growth, because you're meeting people who are just, through Chevening, you meet people with nothing to take back in return at that point of time. You have no idea how a person you're meeting at one point is ever going to help you in your future. You have no idea how that is going to work out, but you are still networking with so many different people. And what that actively does is it just opens your mind. You are meeting people who have different life stories, different experiences to share, and how that really plays out in your professional life, in your personal life, is something you'll only realize when it plays out. It's a very subtle learning that happens. I don't think I can sit and pinpoint and say, oh, I met X person at this point of time which helped me realize this about myself. I think it's the cumulative experience of meeting different people from across the world, from different sectors, hearing different life stories, work stories, just engaging in that cohort, in that network. It's just changed me as a person. I have completely different views today, and more than anything, I'm just flexible about those views. I'm open to learning new things today, and I think that is one of the biggest learnings that I've got from change.
Thanks for sharing, Iknoor. And I was just thinking to myself that I converted all the men in our group on gender, because, I constantly say I put gender on the agenda, and at the end they were brainwashed into gender sensitivity. Now when they think of gender, they think of me. So and on the other hand, I had a greater appreciation of how government works. And to give you an example, how the Chevening Network really comes to your aid. Once, much before COVID, somebody from Canada reached out to me and said, my mother is missing. And the mother was in Noida and she was missing. And he says, it's been at least a week and we haven't found her. And we don't know whether she's been trafficked for her organs, or if she's dead, she's alive. And I was like, okay, how am I going to help you? Because I don't have anyone in Noida. But I reached out to Rakesh Arya, who's from the police, and he's in Haryana. So within his police circuit, they tracked the woman, and she was put in some hospital in Delhi, but they managed to track her, and the family had given up hope of ever finding her. But the Chevening Network actually helped her be found and reunited with her family. And I was just pleased that I could play a role in that. But that's how powerful this network is in India, and I'm sure around the world. What about you, Wasim? What were the learnings that you implemented? And then Kanta, we'll come back to you because you dropped off.
I think my colleagues have already covered most of it. Humility is something I also agree that it's a very important learning that I gained during my Chevening experience, because when you start to understand and see how conservation works in a global context, and you meet people who are the fellow conservation experts with their own stories, you actually feel people have done a lot of things out there, and the kind of change that they have been able to achieve. So that was a very important learning for me. And when I came back after the course, I actually went back to my the whole statement that I submitted for my application to Chevening, and I looked at the capacity building component of it. And then I used the learnings on the whole evolving part of, 1 year was about evolution for me, just transforming into the actual change maker, because we apply with the whole leadership and change maker thing in mind. But the process of actually being a change maker happens during the course, during the whole Chevening experience. So when I came back, I actually started working on the capacity building component, and I'm happy to say, like, for example, we have been able to transform lives of more than 50 snake charmers in India. People who are actually begging on the streets with snakes, they're actually working inside Delhi airport right now. And they rescue animals. Any kind of movement that happens on runways or taxiways or anything that enters, any animal that enters the planes, our team goes there. So these snake charmers from so many years and generations which were into snake charming, and even madaris, people who used to handle monkeys, these people have been transformed, and their families are benefiting from it because they have a proper stable skilled job. So these kind of things we are also expanding on it now. I mean, it becomes a habit to scale up. Once you do the Chevening experience, you want to keep scaling up and bring more people up in the society. So now we are working with several state governments. We are working with the Delhi government. We are working with MCDs. We are working with government of Haryana also, government of UP also, on some guidelines on proper rescue measures which can be enabled, and to develop this kind of infrastructure which can train more people into conservation sector. It's such a vast field, conservation, which I learned when I was studying and through other colleagues in Shivning. Right? It's so vast, it's so complex. It's not easy to understand the entire thing, but whatever learnings we continue to get from other colleagues, we try to implement it and enforce it in India.
Thanks, Wasim. I'm going to ask Kanta to continue, but in the meantime, please post in the chat section if you have any questions, because after this, we're going to start taking your questions and bring Supriya into the panel as well. So Kanta, over to you.
Just last 2 minutes. So sorry, there's power cuts here. And if the electricity goes, it will take 3 minutes to reconnect. So just bear with me. So what I was saying was that while you are learning, we also met number of scholars when we were when we visited London. What you learn from them is that many of them, like what Sonakshi mentioned, have started their own organization. Then you realize that we haven't really done much when young people have achieved so much even before coming to the program here. For me, it gives me a lot of hope that when people like that are there, and particularly young women are there to look at issues of domestic violence and also communication from a women's perspective or from a inclusion perspective, I think there is hope for all of us. So it gives me hope to talk to young people, number one. On the other hand, you're also meeting, particularly for our program, there were a lot of great speakers who you read about, who you know, and whose name you read. They come there and speak to you for an hour. You are taking photographs with them, Nobel laureates. I mean, how can it be possible otherwise? 12 of you and a Nobel laureate is speaking to you. It's just not possible otherwise. We met so many people who we had read about and whose work we know is admired throughout the world. That's another experience that I had. In 12 weeks that we were there, 11 weeks we were traveling and we went to 11 different countries in Europe. That was the most amazing experience. I know scholars won't get that kind of time, but we were, of course, there was enough money, but all of us were professionals and we will take off in smaller groups and we'll go to different parts of that region. But last point is that, and that everybody has mentioned, the humility part of it, that you not only realize that you don't know everything, but you also know that if you have good intentions, there are people to support you. And this huge group of people who have gone through similar experiences, whether they are young people like IGNOR or Wasim or Sonakshi, that I can say, hey, I'm also a Chimner and I know the support will be there. So where do you get this kind of network? So I would appeal to all young people to think about it. Just put their heart into what goes. I always believe that when you share a story with truth in it, it will touch somebody's heart. So do write your leadership journey. Do write about what you have done in life and what your vision is. I'm sure you will be there. And it's a great experience. I would not miss it for anything in the world. I think, as I mentioned before, one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah, I'm almost tempted to ask Supriya, can I apply again?
I actually asked her that, can I go again? I asked her last time, but another thing that you mentioned, Elsa, that all my group members, particularly men, I take the credit for also sensitizing them on gender. My friend who is working on AI is now, we used to discuss about the biases, the biases that come into AI. He is actually working on the subject now, saying the unconscious biases that also then come to AI. He's working on that subject now. So when they keep talking about all the time that it is because of you. So that is my contribution to the group. Thank you.
So there is a question from Khushbu, and thanks Shruti for also pitching in with the comments. I mean, please read Shruti's great detailed explanations on how you have to, frame your application essays, etc. But Khushbu asks, can you talk about the diversity of leadership experiences that are suitable to write in the essay? And maybe we start with IGNOR. What did you write in your essay? Like, how did you structure your essay? Because that seems to be the most complicated thing. Like, you're younger than maybe Kanta and myself. So if you don't have that many experiences, what are you going to put in that essay?
I think the one thing that I learned through my application writing process, and like I think everybody has pointed out, your application process is not it's not like you sit and write your application is going to happen in one go. I must have changed my answers more than 10 times. And I consider myself a pretty good writer in that sense. So there is no short formula to this, right? So if you're sitting and editing your thing and you're feeling overwhelmed, don't worry about that. I think that's just everybody who applies for cheating, sits and edits their application a billion times. When it comes to the leadership thing, one thing that I really kind of realized is that you don't need to have led a team, or leadership experience is not always where you are a designated leader. I think the one thing that I've learned, and of course Chevening also taught me that, but one thing I learned while I was writing my application is that I think leadership is demonstrated in various situations. It could be by you were a kid playing within a friend circle where something happened and you took ownership and made, solved the situation. For instance, it could be something as small as that. What I put down on my application was basically snippets from my life. I literally started that answer with the fact that I have grown up in a very disciplined household because my father's a retired army officer. So I grew up in a very disciplined household, and my first experience with what is leadership came from that. And then the next step of that was in school, just handling small responsibilities, whether you're a class monitor or I was head girl. So that became the first ever big experience of leadership for me. And then eventually in my professional life, I never sat as a journalist. I never handled a team because when I was 5 years into the profession when I applied for Chevening. So I wasn't handling a team below me. But where your leadership skills kind of really come out is in how you handle situations. And that's really what I put on my application, that, sometimes when we were in a conflict zone and certain decisions needed to be taken at that point of time, I did step up at that point and say, okay, I sat and thought with a clear head and said, yes, this needs to be done. And according to me, that was leadership in my own, in my own way. So I think leadership is about how you perceive that. One, how you perceive leadership. Two, it can be demonstrated in the smallest of situations. So you don't need to be designated a leader at that point of time for you to demonstrate a leadership skill. So
and you also have to talk about your work. So for example, during COVID, if you did community work, community service,
that's leadership.
Use that as an example. All of us.
Even if you verified numbers, even if you took onus of saying, I'm going to sit and verify 10 oxygen leads during the second wave, even if you did that, I think that in itself is demonstration of your leadership skill, because you took charge. You said, I'm going to do what I can do right now, right? That is leadership. And it's basically just about, okay, a situation where you took onus and said, yes, I'm going to do something about this. I think that is leadership.
Thanks, thanks, Iknoor. And Sonakshi, there's another question. And since you applied for a master's, Aparna Singh asks, how does one find out more about the host university as a point of collaboration? So how did you pick your course and the university that you applied for?
So actually, I didn't even think of Sussex right at the beginning. It wasn't a college I'd heard that much about relative to some of the others that I applied to. I got in to 4 or 5 colleges that I'd applied to. And I hadn't envisioned that this would be it. But I thought a lot about a couple of things. So I looked at research outputs. I looked at the faculty profiles. I thought that was really important to me to know that we were at the cutting edge of research in my field. That was really a decision that helped me come to terms with this. This was also, like I said, I did a master's in gender violence and conflict. It's an incredibly specific degree. All of the other degrees I'd applied for were gender studies degrees, but I took the time to look at, so you'll find that all the college websites will have the modules written down. what it is that you're going to be studying in a semester. And I was incredibly familiar with what I would be studying, no matter where I would be studying it. So I think that helped in the interview also, because if you come in with a certain amount of clarity of thought and you've thought about why it is you want to do what you want to do, that really sort of sets you apart from, someone who may not have given it as much thought. And it is important to think about these things. Like Supriya mentioned that, people often say that the entire process just helps you think through what it is that you want to do in life. So those were some of the things that I did personally. Also, the rankings, they don't make a huge difference, at least to me personally. That wasn't something that was big in my personal opinion. But even things like what would my quality of life be in one part of the UK versus another, those were things I thought about. How much I would be spending, where I would be living, how fast the pace of life would be, all of those things factored into my decision. And I think that there's no one answer, given that, there's so many different options for you to pick from. So those were some of the things that were going on in my mind. And, yours can be completely different, and that's going to be okay too. So yeah.
Thanks, Sonakshi. Supriya, there are two questions. So one is about this person who's currently studying and finishes next year in March. Can they apply by November 2nd for at least the scholarship, whilst they also apply for the degree? And there's a second question that must one already have an admit from a university before applying for the scholarship? So in this case, before 2nd of November.
Sorry, just trying to unmute it. So the first question is that yes, you should have finished your graduation before you apply for Chevening for the scholarship. So if you're taking your exam in March, then you're eligible only for the next cycle that will open up in August. So you may be waiting for your results, that's all right, but you should have taken your exams before you apply for the scholarships. And the second question is that you don't have to have an offer from the university at the time of applying for Chevening. So in fact, we give you so much time. So if you were, let's say the applications are open currently, and if you were to be applying now, you could be doing your research, obviously, simultaneously to kind of figure out what are the courses and the universities. And that is important because that needs to go into the application. But you can start applying after you've actually submitted your application, and you have almost all the way till mid-July next year. So remember, if you're applying now, you will be going in September, October next year, and you have all the way till July to get that one unconditional offer in hand. So from the three that you've listed, you need one unconditional offer. So yeah, plenty of time, and if you start the process now, you have more than 7-8 months actually to get your offer.
And for the gentleman who's finishing next year, you can apply next year for 2023.
Yes.
So you can start writing your essays right now and keep an eye out, learn more about Chevening. And it's okay, don't rush into anything. What I've learned is you get what you need when you need it, not when you want it. So that's important. So we have another question. It's in my private chat. So so she has admissions from IDS and SOAS, but deferred her offer for next year. She has the work experience that Chevening needs. So is it fine if she just fulfills the hours criteria? It's not quite the 2 years. So is the 2 years like strict?
So I think any one of us can really answer this, but if I were to just go first, so it's not, there are these hours that you need to fulfill, and I think they're calculated on the basis of 8 hours a day, and that's how they kind of work it through. So if you look at the website, I think it gives you there are a number of hours. I don't quite remember the hours, but I think it's I think, I don't know if Sonakshi or can come in and if you remember the exact number of hours, but it's very clearly mentioned in the website. So, and like I said, it doesn't matter when you have finished. So you could have been working for 3, 4, 5 years to have collected this 2 years of relevant hour experience that we're looking at. It doesn't have to be 2 years of full-time work. could be voluntary, unpaid, paid internships, part-time work, work that you did before your graduation, during your graduation, after. I think it's really flexible. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
It accounts for all your leaves, etc. as well. So I think it takes about 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then it also accounts for like up to 25 days off in a year or something like that. So it's very easy to do it with internships as well.
So Wasim, you also did a master's, right? So how did you pick your college and the specific course?
That's something which happened while I was working. One of the colleague and who is also a mentor to me, a naturalist, and he told me that there is this course at the University of Kent, and he encouraged me to go ahead and apply for this course. But then, of course, I did my own research because I always had this impression that applied conservation is not something which is being imparted at any education institution out there. That was my mentality. And then I also had this thinking that what people teach in institutions is something which is limited to forests, interiors of forests, and I wanted to work outside the forest because a lot of wildlife conflict happens outside these forests. And that is when I came to know that University of Kent has a collaboration with Durrell Institute of Conservation and Ecology, and the people who are teaching this course are actually working outside these traditional protected areas. And they work heavily on the social science component of conservation. And that is what attracted me a lot. And we had experts on elephants, we had experts on big cats, then we had an expert on reptiles. So all sorts of experts are giving you knowledge about different components of conservation. So it covered the entire thing for me, be about human wildlife coexistence, conflict mitigation solutions, or even wildlife crime control. So that is how I decided and chose my course.
Thanks, Wasim. And my last round of questions. And if you have questions, this is your last chance for this session. There'll be more, so put it in the chat. But Chevening also believes that it's not only academics and all. You have to also have fun. And Supriya did mention that the allowance is generous. So Kanta, what is the one thing that stood out for you, and how did you have fun? Only what is admissible on a public forum, please?
So a lot of fun for us. So on Friday, we will take our bags with the two change, in fact, to the class. We'll finish the class, we'll rush to the airport, and we'll take off. So that was the most fun part, and it was like Jindagi Na Milegi Dobara. आप friends हैं आपके साथ और आपको कुछ नहीं करना है, आपको बस जाके घूम के आना है. When you go with the family, it is not the same thing. I don't know. I have this. You always have some responsibilities to take care of children or someone. Here you are with friends. So that was the most fun part, I would say. So we traveled like crazy. Also, we celebrated everybody's birthdays or festivals because Diwali, it was also Diwali time that time. So we celebrated all special occasions and not so special occasions. We also invited our speakers and our coordinators and people who were involved with us on day-to-day basis. We dressed up, we made Indian food, and we had a lot of fun there as well. And third fun part was also pulling each other's legs, because senior people who forget where they come from and where they are going, and they are there for 3 months, everybody realized that probably this kind of time will never come again. So everybody was in that mood where they wanted to have fun. So it was very, very interesting to live together, to if we are sitting in somebody, say one person's house or one group's house, we would not get up till 2 o'clock. We just start talking, laughing, dancing. Even people like us who don't dance also danced. So, so very interesting, but also met a lot of interesting people there. So I had a lot of fun. And that is the most memorable part, apart from learning that we were sitting in the classroom, we were just listening to the great speakers, meeting a lot of, experienced people. and learning about topics that we had not thought about earlier. So it was very nice.
Wasim, how did you have fun? What stood out for you?
To be honest, I used to travel a lot when I was there. Not just around the university. I used to take a lot of walks because the University of Kent is more like a countryside location. So walks can be very relaxing, and especially when you're working on your assignments, you need to relax. So it used to help me with thinking about the assignments and other things which were going on. Apart from that, I used to spend a lot of time cooking. I had no idea how to cook before I left for university studies. And, someone did warn me, a Shivning scholar, 1 year senior to me from the same university. She did message me once before I traveled to UK, and she messaged me on Instagram that, figure out cooking because you will struggle out there. So I was like, no, I think it should be fine because there must be so many cafes and stuff out there. But it became a struggle because there was, it becomes difficult. We miss our food. So, then I started learning cooking. I used to spend time with my flatmates also to figure out what they are cooking. People from Malaysia and other parts of Europe, they were also on the course in that flat. So they used to teach me, what dishes they like to cook. So that was quite a fun experience for me. And I think I've become a foodie now.
Thanks, Wasim. Tarun, who is in the audience and is a very active Chevener. Very quickly, Tarun, you want to say hi and just share your experience?
I would just say hello, everyone. And I think all of the important points have been said about. I would only like to mention one thing while everybody is talking about the experiences of while at the program. I would just like to make a note that once you complete the program and return back, please do join the alumni, the Chevening alumni in India. And there's a lot of fun here as well. We do a lot of things and we work very, very closely with all the Cheveners. And of course, yes, with Supriya and her wonderful team at the British High Commission. And I can promise you, you will have loads of fun and activities. In fact, on a little serious note, last 1.5 years have been very helpful for every Chevener and their family because we all were so well connected and we were together able to fight pandemic. I'm sure, Elsa did mention very briefly about it, but thank you once again, Elsa, for this session. And I look forward to seeing all of you in person, hopefully very, very soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tarun. So there is a question which I think Supriya can take. So somebody asked, Madhu asked, how is the selection process likely to happen considering COVID restrictions, the interview and the onboarding sessions especially, and how have they happened in 2020? I think it's happened online, but maybe Supriya, you can say a few lines about it.
So, I think the good thing that we've had as far as Chevening scholarships are concerned is that despite the pandemic, both in 2020 and in 2021, all of our cohorts are actually have been able to go to the UK or are going now to the UK next month. And of course, the interviews in terms of the selections, everything has moved online. In fact, I think we've quite enjoyed this whole process of interviewing online. I think we've saved a lot of time. We've saved a lot of stress that we've caused to the environment of getting so many people to fly across also for interviews. And I think we think this is a much nicer way of actually doing interviews. Everybody is sitting in the comfort of their homes or workplaces and can give in their best during the course of their interview. And I wouldn't be surprised if actually we might continue to do this even post the pandemic, just keep doing our interviews online. Elsa, just one other question that kind of came up, and I just wanted to clarify this. There's somebody interested in applying for fellowships. So this year, we've not opened our applications for fellowships. So this is cyber security, the journalism program, and also the science and innovation, our CRIS program. Primarily because so we haven't been able to send our fellows in the last 2 years, even though we've sent all of our scholars because of the pandemic. Also because of the way the whole fellowship is designed, it's really all about networking. And I think it would be very unfair to a program to kind of confine people like you, Elsa, Kanta, who've gone on these short-term courses to just the university as well. So I mean, this is your programs are really more about the 2 or 3 month long programs are more about going out and meeting people. So those 2 cohorts that we have selected in the last 2 years are actually still waiting to go to the UK, and they will be going early next year. So they will travel in 2022. And so I thought we were more committed to sending them. And so we've not opened up applications this year for fellowships, but look out for these programs next year for those who are interested in applying.
Supriya, there's one more question. How does Chevening view those who have applied earlier and are applying again? Are the repeat applicants viewed unfavorably? And if any tips on those who have applied earlier can be shared on making their applications more effective?
So that's a good question, actually. So, and I know both of you raised this up earlier also. So if you are a Chevening fellow to start with, that's it. We've done our best for you. You can't apply for another a fellowship program or for a scholarship. However, if you've been a Chevening scholar, then after 5 years, you are eligible to apply for a fellowship program. But having said that, actually, what I have noticed is that we've had very few people actually who've been our doubles, who've been on 2 programs as far as Chevening is concerned. One is that once you are within this network, you really have got, you've got the best of what we have to offer in any case. And so if you are interested in going for a fellowship program, and for example, if you didn't really work in the space of cyber and you have been working in the space of cyber in the last, say, 7-8 years, and now you feel that you need to specialize and get to know people and collaborate, etc., in this particular space, so then that's a solid business case. So then that for that, we encourage you to apply for the fellowship. So keep that in mind. I mean, if it is something that you are doing, that you were doing as a scholar and you just want to go for another program, then obviously you will lose out.
Yeah, I don't think the person is asking if they went and can go again. I think if they applied but didn't get selected, and can they apply again, and is that viewed unfavorably?
Not at all, not at all, because we have so many applications, Elsa. So in fact, we strongly encourage people to apply again because we choose such less number of people. And I think many scholars and fellows will tell you that they applied, they didn't get through in the first instance, and that they applied again, and then they got through in the second or third time as well. So yeah, please apply again. I'm sorry, I didn't get the question in the first round. So yes, please apply again.
I believe that you should always apply again, because maybe it was, they were looking at a cohort and you didn't fit the cohort that year, but maybe the next year you fit the cohort, and maybe the next year your application is a little clearer. So we've given you a lot of tips, and I know we've already spoken about how to make your application strong, but feel free to also reach out on Twitter and check the comments above as well. Shiti Gala, who maybe I can ask her to come in and just add a little bit about her experience. Thanks for posting all those very important tips.
Thanks, Elsa and Supriya. I think this is a lovely initiative, and I think the panel has done a fantastic job of just sharing their experiences. It's been likewise for me as well, which is precisely why I'm here. I think I'd just like to add a couple of points so I can understand or relate to the nerves that one might go through while doing the application. So I would just, like to add 2 or 3 more things. I think please think of the written application as almost like a pehla padhao, like a first elimination step. So I just want to suggest that the written application really matters. And I think that's the once you've made it through that stage, then of course the interview round itself is, I mean, my interview experience was so good. The interview panel really focused on making me feel at ease. They were very conversational. They really cleared the air in the room. So it was more of just talking about yourself and your work and having a chat rather than a stress test, And I'll share very candidly, I'd applied to a bunch of other scholarships, including, Commonwealth, etc. Rhodes. That was the year that I was going through a mass application process, and I'm sharing this with no other bias, but to say that the Chevening interview experience for me itself was a very good one, and I came out of it feeling very relaxed, happy, and calm. So just really focus on the written application, I would just say that, go beyond brand names. I know we love the Oxbridges and the LSCs, and it's always good to apply to some of those if you're doing your master's program, but please look at the niche course that you're interested in your subject area. So go beyond just what's going to look good on your CV to get to the core of which course is going to help you better. So all the best, everyone. I'll pause here, and thanks, Elsa, for bringing me in.
Thank you so
If I
much.
can just add one thing to what Shruti said about the ranking bit, like she's absolutely right. Like while your LSEs in Oxford look great on your CV, I think rankings need to be assessed on the basis of your course, and you get those rankings. So Guardian, I think, has one of the best rankings in the UK. You can go there and you can add your course that you want to do. So if you want to look at like the best, like I wanted to go to journalism school. So of course, Cardiff was one of the top rated schools there, but you can actually just put in whatever fields that you want to study into that chart, and they'll tell you which are the universities and which are the schools within that university that are actually well ranked. And to be very honest, if you're actually looking to build a career in that sector and abroad, etc., they're not going to sit and look at which university you went to. They're actually going to sit and see which faculty you went to, because that is what matters. And so you'll be foolhardy to think that you could study journalism from an LSE, but a Cardiff journalism degree will still have a higher rating than an LSE journalism degree, only because of the faculty. And that is something you need to be cognizant of. That's all.
Thanks. Well, we've completely run out of time, but I do want to thank everyone. Supriya, thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk about this amazing, amazing experience and relive a lot of these memories. Thank you, Kanta, ICNUR, Sonakshi, Wasim, and everyone else who's kept the chat on fire. And let's continue the conversation. You have until 2nd of November. Feel free to reach out to Chevener's on Twitter or LinkedIn. And, we invite people to also read your essay and critique it. Maybe that's something that, we can help you with. So thank you once again. And hopefully we'll have more such discussions where, as you continue to write your essay, you might come across some more questions and we can help you fine tune your application. Thank you, everyone. Good evening.